Welcome to Syd's Cambridge. I'm Lee Wood. I'm going to be your guide on this tour. Now, before we go any further, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. I'm not a professional presenter. I'm a genuine fan, just like you. And I grew up in Cambridge, and all the places that we're about to visit, I know really well. So let's start just behind me with what was the Victoria Ballroom and the Still and Sugarloaf. This is a location for the Victoria Ballroom and the Still and Sugarloaf pub. The Jokers Wild played here on a residency every Wednesday. Played for about 2 hours, so you can imagine that's how Dave Gilmour became quite an amazing guitarist.
Dave was very much a great front man, you know, full of personality, leaning forward into the audience. Girls loved him. He was a good guitarist. And they used to sort of say up there, the Victoria cinema across there. You went in the main entrance, I can remember, you went up, there was a cinema straight down, but and if you went to the dance used to be on the first floor. In fact, the dance room is now probably Marks and Spencer's ladies' underwear. On the left here was a bar that you went down the stairs called the Still and Sugarloaf, which was a regular haunt of the local boys. Here there was a shop called Gentry. I think it was the first mod shop that sold mod clothes. That was run by Mick Lambourne Brown and one of the Harris boys. Up there were dances most nights, particularly weekends. Jokers Wild were one of the resident groups. They played every 2 weeks. Mostly they did sort of covers, popular covers. I can remember sort of Dave Gilmour played lead, Clive Wellham drums. I think Tony Sainty may have played bass to begin with, and then that was followed by Ricky Wills. Dave Altham played rhythm. David had been the head boy at Eton and come up to Cambridge University. He was one of the few sort of local university boys that played in local bands that played outside of the university complex or scene.
I don't have many memories of the other band now. I could have very well been there, but I was probably had used so many drugs at the time, I can't remember everything. But what I do remember is that Dave Gilmour playing with the Jokers Wild, who was a friend of mine, then David Ortham, and also Ricky Wills. Ricky Wills came from there, and he started playing many years later, probably about 10 years later. Let me think, this was in the 63, a bit more than that, about 15 years later, he started playing with Foreigner, and he went on tour for them and recorded for them for about 12 years, I think. And as I say, this was every in the middle of the week and weekends we'd come here, and down in the Still and Sugarloaf we'd go drinking and socialising with all different characters.
Syd certainly, he would have visited up here in his jeans and Wellington boots, and this would have been a regular haunt of his to sort of watch other musicians playing, and obviously he became friends with Dave Gilmour in those days. You know, Jonathan King, he was here at university then. He used to hang about up here. And it was a regular music scene. I think Syd's sister remembers coming up here a lot on a Wednesday and enjoying herself and dancing around.
We're on the other side of the market square. This is the Guildhall. In 1953, when Syd was just 7 years old, along with his sister Rosemary, he won an award performing a piano duet with her of the Blue Danube. We're in Petty Curie now. This was the location for Ken Stevens' music shop, where the bands came to buy guitars, amplifiers, drums. It was a small shop, about half the width of what you see behind me, and Syd and David Gilmour would come in here and spend hours playing with the instruments, but of course they couldn't afford to buy them at the time.
Ken Stevens, the first Ken Stevens I remember was here, guitar shop, drum shop. Everyone went into there. The early 60s was this expansion of rock and roll. Bit late for sort of Bill Haley and Elvis Presley, but I think the Rolling Stones had sort of had a very big influence. They'd appeared at the Rex, and everyone wanted to pick up a guitar, pick up a set of drums, play in a band. Some were good, not so good.
And if you didn't have money, he would give you some equipment as well. If you needed something, you know, if you were known like Dave or Dave Gilmour or Ricky or somebody like that, and other people from Soul Committee, another band, if you went in to him and you needed to borrow a bit of equipment, he would lend you it. Or if you needed to buy one, you didn't have any money, he'd give you it until you had the money to.
Saturday morning, Ken Stevens was one of the first places you came to early in the morning to have a look round and look at the guitars and pretend you could play or dream you could be a star.
So where we are now in Petty Curie with the entrance to the Lion Yard, this was where the Red Lion Hotel was?
Yeah, if you went down Alexander Street, you had on your left here Henneke's Wine Bar. On the corner there was the YMCA.
Yeah.
The Riverside Jazz Band played there a lot. The bass player, which was the old double bass, his name was Syd Barrett as well, S-I-D Barrett, who Roger met and decided that Syd had been a good nickname. He'd adopted the name Syd, but he'd changed it to S-Y-D, I believe, and that was where he liked listening to jazz, modern and trad.
One thing I want to make clear at this point, because a lot of people say that he was the drummer in the jazz band, but he wasn't. He played double bass.
He played the double bass.
Yeah. This was Miller's Music Centre. They had the most astonishing range of records here. You could find everything, no matter how obscure. Syd and friends came down here to listen to obscure jazz records, even the latest pop records.
Yeah, this was sort of the second port of call. After Ken Stevens, this was part of the route.
Right.
Then you used to come here. Again, on the ground floor, you'd have musical instruments and drums. The guys who were into the music, actually wanted to become musicians, they'd go there. The rest of us would sort of disappear down the stairs, which you could see from here, and that was where the listening booths were. It had, I think it was the first place I remember, it had concave windows. Then you'd sort of go up and you'd sort of choose all the latest sounds, go into the booth, play them over and over again. The top 3 or 4, because you couldn't really afford them on the money you had, because you could smoke in those days. So
I'm standing in the doorway of what today is Waterstone's bookshop. In the 60s, this was the Dorothy Ballroom. Everybody played here. I saw The Who, even Jimi Hendrix played here. And 3 weeks before the release of Arnold Layne, Pink Floyd played here. We're just inside what today is Waterstone's bookshop, and in our time was the Dorothy Ballroom. And we're in the Hobson Street end, which is, to us, was the main entrance, whereas most people seem to look at the other end, which was a supermarket. And this was one of the main places in Cambridge, I think, for bands to play.
yeah, I mean everyone came here.
Yeah.
And this was the main door, and that was the staircase that went up. But a lot of local support here, Squad 5, Mark Arnold, Dawnbreakers, Jokers Wild, those without all would have played here. I'd guess nearly all the local bands.
Yeah. So when those without played here, was that with Syd?
I honestly can't remember. I think so. I know we actually played at RAF Wittering, right, but Syd didn't play then.
Right.
I mean, I know of instances Syd did play, but at that time, sort of, you didn't really take much notice.
No. To us, sometimes it's sort of yesterday, and at other times it's, when we look back, it's over 40 years. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't have much memories here, probably because of substances. I can't remember this place at all. I know I've been here many times, people have told me, but I can't remember it.
So that must be from you, Charlie. They get the phrase, you remember the 60s, you weren't really there.
Yeah, I know.
This was the Criterion pub, known to everyone as the Cry. Everybody met here: Syd, David Gale, Emo, Matthew Scurfield, David Gilmour. This was their favourite drinking place.
If you look on the pictures of the Criterion, this is exactly the same. These arched windows with the red brick.
Oh, wow.
If you go back, I'm sure it is, if you have a look. I can remember sort of you went in the side. Everyone went to the Criterion. I think that was the most popular pub in Cambridge.
This is one of the first places I had a drink with Syd, because at the Millers, that's where I used to stand. I also used to go down and listen to records and see Syd down there. But I remember at Millers, just standing there, and Syd would go in or come out of Millers, and I would just be staring at him, because he was like this god to me, no? Which became my hero. And then later on, in the El Patio, where I used to drink coffee, I got to talk to him and made him laugh a couple of times. And then eventually one day I was down in the Criterion. I think I was about 17 or something, no? Underage to drink. I think he's 18, wasn't it? It still is, I guess, no? And had my first pint with him. Yeah, and that's one of my first memories of having a nice time with Syd, you know.
We're just round the corner from the Criterion pub, and opposite is the Dorothy Ballroom. This was where Miller's Music Centre moved to in 1966, and then they moved on in 1972. Just before they moved, they had a record sale, and some lucky person picked up a demo version of Arnold Lane. It cost them 40 pence. Today it's Sainsbury's, but in the 60s this was the El Patio coffee bar where everybody used to come. It was one of the first espresso coffee bars in Cambridge.
I remember this was the El Patio. This is the coffee bar that, the first one that really opened. But there was there was a Joe Lyons, and there was Waffles.
That's right, there's a waffle cafe next
to the El Patio was big at bin, and it was a sort of leftover. It was a sort of transient style left over in the 50s, the kitsch area. Right. But the El Patio, it was sort of like a loosely based on South America or a Mexican image. You had all the sort of sombreros and all this false plastic fruit, these limes and these lemons and bananas, right, hanging about. Yeah. But it was the sort of a place that, you know, as a young person, if you had a girlfriend, instead of going to the pub at lunchtime after you'd done the circuit of Ken Stevens and Miller's, you brought your girlfriend here and sat and drank coffees and etc. etc. I mean, the terrible thing again is sort of, you know, when we were talking to the tour guides said, this is a first for us, standing with our backs to Sydney, Sussex, looking at a part of Sainsbury's and trying to look back to say, this is a coffee bar that Syd Barrett went into, and Syd Barrett sort of drank coffee in and frequented, met his friends and talked about music and brought his girlfriends. Normally we stand with our backs to this and are looking at Sydney Sussex College. I'm talking about the history of that college. And
yeah, it was more like a beat cafe for the early beatniks. You know, the arty people came in, all like Syd and other people, poets. And this is where I first used to come and meet Syd. Oh, I come in here and then I have coffee and talk, a chat with Syd, and then maybe we'd go off and have a pint later or something like that. Yeah, basically it's where we all used to hang out in the beatnik days.
We're at the Friends Meeting House on the corner of Jesus Lane and Park Street. This is the place that most people think Syd gave his first ever live performance as part of Geoff, Mott and the Mottos. But actually, this isn't the location, and later on I'll reveal what is the correct location. This is the famous round church in Bridge Street. Just round the corner you'll find a little door just below street level, 40 paces from the front of the round church, and this is where the Union Cellars is hidden away down a little staircase. If Syd's first live performance wasn't just round the corner at the Friends Meeting House, some people think it was down here in the Union Cellars. But actually Syd didn't play here until July 1964 as a member of the Hollow in Blues.
Those without played here. I mean, it was the Cellars just here through those sort of pavement level glass. So I mean, obviously over the years now, health and safety. I mean, if there was a fire in there, I think everyone would have been out of it. But there was a little bar in there, the toilets were down there, and it was a door. You played here.
Yeah.
The door at the end of this piece here was where you brought your equipment in. Yeah. Jenny Spires says this is where she first met Syd.
Right.
Playing here for those without. Of course, in those days, Syd played. He did vocals, but he played bass guitar. He didn't really play lead.
We'll have some lessons.
Okay.
Which is all still totally original as it was. Just the colours changed.
No, I remember because I played in a band and we played here once. I remember that.
Yeah. That's still the original stage.
It's still the original stage.
Yes. All we've done is put a new surface on it.
Wow.
We took the boarding off because it was all
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
put apply boarding on.
Wow,
It's all totally original.
that's incredible.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, of course.
Doesn't
yeah,
matter
it
where you
is.
go.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And the original seats, the size as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I was remembering the like veneer and stuff underneath.
Great, isn't it?
That is amazing. I have the privilege of standing on the stage where bands played. This is the Footlights as it originally was in the 60s. The only thing that's different is the wall is now white, whereas before it was black. All the furniture you see around it, everything is the same as it was in the 60s. This is just amazing. Just soak up the atmosphere here, because this is where Syd played, this is where Joker's Wild played, and very few people get to see this.
David Gilmour's son was actually at the college here.
Oh, wow.
He came to the college here. And he lived with me. And of course his first wife, Ginger,
Yeah,
who's now the sculptor.
right.
She keeps inviting us. She has these showings all the time. She invites the wife and I, which is good.
Yeah,
In London. So yeah, we're still in touch.
contact.
His dad, Dave Gilmour, doesn't speak to many people. He's not. He's sort of in the background a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, him and Paul McCartney always had this little thing going, didn't they, about how much money have you spent, how much have you given to charity.
Oh, right, yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
Dave's quite generous in that way.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Paul McCartney and him had this little thing going, and still do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Good fun. Yeah. But no, great times. Thoroughly enjoyed the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. We're in Trinity Street, one of the oldest places in Cambridge, and behind me what was the Turk's Head restaurant. And upstairs was the International Club, where Syd and David Gilmour would come because there were lots of attractive foreign students here.
I think this used to be called the Turk's Head, didn't
This
it?
is the
Restaurant.
Turk's Head.
Here it used to be the Turk's Head restaurant, and upstairs was a place called the International Club, and most of the foreign students at one point would gather here. And this is where I was probably about 17 when I first met my first French girlfriend, Michelle. Blonde beauty she was, and it's also where I first met Dave Gilmour. And also, well, Dave Ortham I already know, and he was a drummer of the rhythm guitarist with the Joker's Wild. And also Dave was also at that time playing with the Joker's Wild. They were together already. And every now and again, me and Dave would sit there and have a coffee and chat over whatever's happening around Cambridge at the time. And that was the beginning of my relationship with Dave Gilmour.
In the 60s, this was H.R. Aldiss & Sons, which was a place everybody came to buy Levi jeans. They actually sold 17 different colours of Falmere jeans, so all the fashionable people came here. This is the world-famous King's College. When Pink Floyd were playing at a May ball, Roger Waters got the inspiration for the lyric, "The lunatic is on the grass." And in the King's College cellar bar, Syd, with Twink and Jack Monk, played a short set on the same bill as Eddie Guitar Burns. The date was Thursday the 20th of January 1972. Syd's girlfriend from the 60s, Jenny Spires, had invited Syd to the concert. This is the Eagle pub in Bennett Street, probably the most famous pub in Cambridge. Everybody used to come here. When Jokers Wild played their concerts at the Victoria Ballroom, during their break they would come round here with their friends for a quick drink. This is the Corn Exchange just behind the Guildhall. There's a lot of history here. Syd and Rosemary came roller skating when they were young, and this is the spot where Syd made his last ever live performance as a member of Stars in February 1972. This was where Syd played with the last-minute put-together boogie band, with Twink, Jack Monk, Fred Frith and Bruce Payne. The Pink Fairies and Hawkwind also played on the bill. This was January the 27th, 1972. On Thursday the 24th of February, now calling the band Stars, Syd played a disastrous set on the same bill as the MC5. The event was witnessed by Roy Hollingsworth of Melody Maker. 2 days later, on Saturday the 26th of February, the band played at the Corn Exchange again as support to the band Nectar. It was to be the last time Syd ever played live. The review for the concert on the 24th appeared in Melody Maker the following week, and after reading it, Syd appeared on Twink's doorstep and told him he was leaving the band. The date was the 2nd of March 1972. It's amazing to think that from the day Syd first performed as a member of Geoff, Mott and the Mottos on March the 11th, 1962, to the day of his last performance at the Corn Exchange on the 26th of February 1972 is virtually 10 years to the day. In the 60s, this entire area was flat. There was just one building on its own, isolated, the Masonic Hall. Syd played here as a member of the Hollowing Blues. The Hollowing Blues was a short-lived band who played here on at least one occasion, although it's difficult for anyone to remember with any accuracy. However, many bands played here, including Jokers Wild, and it is perfectly possible Syd also played here as a member of Those Without. This is the exact spot where in the 60s Ken Stevens' music shop moved to from Petty Curie. In January 1968, I was in here with a couple of friends. We were trying out guitars. In walked David Gilmour, walked to the back of the shop, picked up a Fender Stratocaster, went over to the counter and said, "I'd like to buy this." "See you, Dave," we said as he walked out the door. 3 days later, we bought Melody Maker. On the front cover, David Gilmour joins Pink Floyd. Just round the corner from Ken Stevens, we're back at the front of the Guildhall. This is a very important spot. Right here is the place where the legendary Stars gave the open-air performance on the Market Square on the afternoon of Saturday the 12th of February 1972. The same day as their second concert at the Dandelion Cafe on East Road.